Okay, Donkey Kong shirt, Donkey Kong socks. I think we're all good to go. Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. This is BJsPool here. You know, I played a lot of Donkey Kong games in my years, and Donkey Kong is one of my favorite gaming franchises of all time. But there's one game that caught my attention for a while that I've never played, and that is Donkey Kong for Game Boy. Now, when I first saw this game, I assumed that it was the original Donkey Kong but ported to the Game Boy, even with Donkey Kong Jr. in there, who didn't come till Donkey Kong Jr. But over the years, once I saw more YouTube videos of this game, it kind of caught my attention how different it is. What do I mean by that? Well, let's find out. Now, I've played the original Donkey Kong games back in the day, and looking back, they were all different unique experiences. The first game had you play as Mario rescuing your girlfriend. The second game has you play as Donkey Kong's son to rescue him from Mario. And the third game has you play as a bug exterminator. So what could this game bring new to the table? So, when you first start the game, it seemingly plays just like the original Donkey Kong. But I did notice some interesting changes. Mario now has different animations based off whatever kills him, like being flattened by rolling barrels Looney Tunes style, or being burnt to a crisp by flaming enemies. I couldn't help but chuckle at these moments as someone who grew up with a lot of slapstick comedy. These alone already made the Game Boy version more enjoyable to play. But just when you think you've beaten the game after the 4th stage, DK nabs your girlfriend and the game becomes an entirely different experience. DK94 changes from being what seems to be a port of the original Donkey Kong into a puzzle platformer. The objective of each stage is to find a key and take it to the door with a keyhole, which is the goal. Sounds simple enough, but it's easier said than done as there are a lot of enemies that get in your way and a lot of obstacles that you'll either have to avoid or take advantage of. The bigger challenge is how to navigate Mario to the end of a level while also figuring out how to bring the key along with him. When holding the key, you won't be able to perform any moves such as climbing ladders or swimming. So he'll have to briefly depart with the key in order to create a path that will allow him to take it or hurdle it into higher areas so that he can find a way to get up there to get it. You also want to keep in mind that the key disappears if left alone for a few seconds and reappears back into its original placement. So you'll have to go all the way back to get it and repeat some puzzles all over again. As the game progresses, the player will have to use strategic thinking and great use of Mario's movesets in order to navigate himself and the key to the goal. Mario's overall control is exactly how it was in the original Donkey Kong, so unfortunately the feel of him is limited compared to the Super Mario games. With that being said, he's more acrobatic this time around. He can crouch to avoid enemy projectiles and can get through small passageways while on a conveyor belt, or if an enemy pushes him through them. He can handstand and move around like Lanky Kong. The most use I got out of this move is when certain objects such as barrels bounce off Mario's feet. Two of the most useful moves are the handstand jump, which sees you briefly performing the handstand then immediately jumping high as a double jump, and the backflip, which while moving you press the jump button and the D-pad in the opposite direction. Both of these can help you reach higher platforms. He can also swing off wires, a move he hasn't done since until Mario Sunshine. And of course, he can pick up and throw objects, like the key for example, just like in Super Mario Bros. 2. Since a lot of gamers, myself included, skipped over this game, we all assumed that it was Mario 64 that introduced a more athletic version of the character, but it was actually this game. Like in the original Donkey Kong, Mario can lose a life from fall damage, but in this game, he will either tumble into a ball to save himself, or just hilariously land flat on his face. These situations depend on the distance and height between Mario and the low ground. Throughout the levels, you can collect these items that Pauline left behind: a hat, a bag, and a parasol. Collecting all three before finishing the level unlocks one of two minigames, giving you a chance to win an extra life or more. There's the Wheel of Fortune and the slot machine, and it's very easy to stock up on lives in this game despite its increasing difficulty. Some stages will have you face off against Donkey Kong. You'll either need to find a way to get up to the top like the original Donkey Kong except with a little puzzle solving here and there, or to throw obstacles at him. Each time you defeat him, we're treated to these hilarious cutscenes of Mario in pursuit of Donkey Kong while the big ape tries and fails to slow him down. These are some of the most hilarious and entertaining moments of the game. They feature a lot of the crazy slapstick antics that I find in early theatrical shorts that I used to watch as a kid, such as Looney Tunes and Tom and Jerry. Or dare I say, Popeye, if you get the reference. The cool thing about these cutscenes is that they're not just made for fun to watch, but they also serve as previews for a new gimmick that you'll be encountering for the next level. Like the first scene where you're introduced to taking the key to the locked door. Or the second on spawning bridges. One where you can throw the hammer up while climbing a ladder while catching it. So many of them. There's a lot of gimmicks in this game. Now your first time playing the game, you'll probably dread these new mechanics, but they also make the game more interesting and feel less repetitive. If you're like me, you likely won't understand these right away, but give them a short practice, play around with the controls, and you'll learn them pretty quickly. For those of you who enjoy the early Donkey Kong games, this game incorporates some mechanics from them. Aside from Mario's controls, it still has the same energy of platforming and dealing with enemies of the original 1981 Donkey Kong, and some levels where you can climb on vines introduced in Donkey Kong Jr. No elements from Donkey Kong 3 though. I know the game's the black sheep, but it was a missed opportunity to have a boss fight where Mario sprays the ape's butt. Speaking of DK Jr., the son of Donkey Kong returns to cause trouble for you later in the game, such as pulling levers, blocking pathways, and throwing mushrooms that make you shrink. Hey, wait, are these where they got the ideas of the mini mushrooms from Mario Party 4 and New Super Mario Bros? No. While the mushroom limits you from performing some of your abilities, you can use this to your advantage, such as going through small passageways. Is Donkey Kong Jr. unintentionally helping us? No wonder he was disowned after this game. Donkey Kong 94 has an overworld map where you must beat every level in each world while in pursuit of Donkey Kong. Similar to most 2D Mario games, every world has levels themed based on your current locations, such as the forest and jungle worlds where you'll need to climb vines, the airport where you'll have to push through air currents in each stage, and the iceberg where you'll have to go through ice physics, swimming through water, and hopping off icicles as platforms. The Rocky Valley, which is said to be the hardest world in the game, is kinda like the Champion's Road. While some levels are done pretty quickly, others will test how much you've learned of the game's mechanics. You'll need to strategize on how you'll take the key to the door and take great use of Mario's abilities. World 814, you can go die in a fire. The game's easiest stages are the boss fights with DK, which are some of the most fun I've ever had. It's also cause I love seeing the big ape so much. I especially like the ones with Junior in them where he helps his father stopping you for reaching him. Which is why the last fight with Junior sees him locked in a cage after you win. Get screwed, you little shit. As far as what I like most about the game is not only its overall presentation, but emphasis on humor and storytelling. Donkey Kong 94 goes for a distinct art style than its predecessors, which helps complement the game's storytelling and visual humor. I can't imagine both of these with the sprites of the original Donkey Kong, as those would be considered dated for the type of story they're trying to tell here. Visually, these sprites are amusing and remind me so much of those slapstick cartoons I watched as a kid. Donkey Kong especially has the best animations of the game. The way he emotes shows how much personality he has. From his reactions of seeing Mario to getting hit on the head, he makes for a great antagonist that you kinda wanna root for. Sometimes. The cutscenes definitely display the cartoony nature of the game. If I had to pick some favorites, it's where DK has Mario back to a corner and rushes at him only to hit a wall. Dumbass. And the one where Mario crosses the lava pit while burning his butt. I also laughed at the numerous times I died in the game because of the many amusing death animations. There's one where Mario gets his blood sucked out by a bat. And let's not forget the music. As much as I enjoy the original Donkey Kong, the music wasn't much to talk about. But the music for this game, including the title theme, are definitely worth listening to. These are some really catchy tunes and a lot of them really pop out. The sound effects also have that 8-bit crunch you love so much. As for what I didn't like, well, some of Mario's controls were still a bit stiff since it was replicating the 1981 game. And while I appreciate the tumble animation to prevent Mario from dying, there were a lot of situations where when I tried to land on a lower platform I could easily overshoot it. I also got frustrated by the amount of levels where I had to rely on spawning bridges and springs because not only do they appear for a short time limit, but in the later stages you'll have to carefully figure out where they're supposed to go. It's more so trial and error, but sometimes they can get frustrating. Also, I don't know how I feel about the key disappearing. It adds to the complex puzzle solving, but it also may frustrate newcomers to the game. So how do I feel about Donkey Kong 94 overall? It's a great sequel to the classic Donkey Kong arcade days that incorporates elements from those games but also gives players a new and unique experience. Not only that, but it also feels more like a cartoon with its humorous cutscenes and hilarious animations, giving the game its own unique identity full of charm and personality. This game is more of a strategic platformer. It will have you try and figure out how to get to the end while also taking an object, the key, with you. After finally playing this game for the first time, I can definitely say that I would recommend it. You can play it for the Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, and the Super Game Boy accessory for the Super NES. In fact, this was the first game to be compatible for the Super Game Boy. I didn't use it for this recording, by the way. And with all that said, thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe for more notifications on when I upload my next video. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys later. You know, these are some cool Donkey Kong socks. Like, yeah.